Hey everybody, welcome to Ready Set Drone. I have had my DJI Mavic for a few months now, have been really enjoying it, and thought it would be good to share a few things I've learned about it over my flight time over the last few months. So stay tuned and I'll give you 10 tips to get the most out of your Mavic. So the DJI Mavic was released in 2016 and a lot of people ordered right away. I was fortunate to get one pretty quickly, but I know there were some supply chain issues that DJI had, and so there were some delays in shipping to a lot of people. I think right about now people are starting to be able to buy them pretty regularly. They're not being delayed anymore. They're shipping out pretty quickly. So I thought it'd be a good time to go through some of the tips and tricks that I've learned over the last few months in flying mine. These are basically just some things that you may or may not have noticed about it, but they'll be helpful to you as you start to fly your Mavic. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was the little dome and the gimbal guard. These things go right here on the front of the Mavic, and they protect the gimbal and the camera while it's in your case. Now, one thing I just want to say, and this may be Captain Obvious, but these things are very important. They are not to be thrown away or lost. My suggestion would be every time you take them on or off to make sure you put them somewhere that is going to be safe and you're going to remember them and not lose them. You can order them online by themselves, but they're kind of expensive. And so my recommendation would be hold on to these and use them every time you put your Mavic away. One other thing is be sure to take them off, especially this back piece here, when you're powering up your Mavic, because you don't want your camera and gimbal to be fighting against this thing as it tries to hold it in place. So the second tip is also related to these little plastic pieces that are on here. It is probably not as obvious. It may look like this clear plastic piece right here is designed to protect your camera as you're flying. You could take the back one off that limits the movement, but leave this on, and you can do that. You can indeed fly with this clear plastic piece on it. However, there's a really good reason not to, and that is these vents that are here in the back of the quad. When you take this piece off, and you take this piece off, you can see right back here behind the camera are some vents that are airflow. They're designed to let the air come into the quad and actually cool the interior of it. So by using this, by keeping this clear plastic piece on the front of it, you're actually preventing that airflow from getting into those vents and cooling the inside of the quad. There's a couple of great videos online that show what happens when you leave it on by taking a temperature reading with the cover on and without the cover on. And it is significantly hotter inside the quad with the cover on. So electronics don't like heat. It tends to shorten their life. So my recommendation would be to take the cover off every time you fly so that you don't risk overheating the interior of the quad. The next thing I'll say is to get a good case for this thing. Now, I know in the release on stage, the DJI folks had folded this up and put it in their back pocket, walked out with it, which is impressive. It does fold up really tiny and it is pretty portable. You can throw it in a backpack, in a duffel bag, whatever. But for me, I want to make sure I don't bend the props. I want to make sure I don't bend the landing gear. I want to make sure I don't knock off the camera protector. So I got this case right here, which is pretty compact. It's a backpack case and it has foam on the inside. It has enough space for 3 batteries. 1, 2, 3. I only have one at the moment because DJI hasn't shipped me the other one. And then the remote fits right in here, just like that, which is a nice fit. And the actual quad itself folds up nicely and fits right in. It fits in like so. Nice and snug, and it will fit in with the props on it and the battery on it. So it's kind of a nice thing. You can also fit the charger in right here. The only complaint about that is it creates a little bit of strain on your right here on your cable. So I put it in there and I try to kind of leave it propped up so that I'm not pushing the cable down. When I get my extra batteries, I'll put them in here. I do keep some Ready Set Drone stickers in here for the time being. And then there's also a little zipper pouch over here that allows you to store extra props and cables in this little compartment. So nice little case, less than $100. I'll put a link to it. But definitely worth the price to protect it, and to also allow you to carry it on to airplanes. If you're going to be traveling with it, of course you need to have LiPo bags to make sure that those are protected, the batteries are protected. But overall, I recommend this case or one similar to it, rather than just throwing it into your back pocket or a backpack like was suggested in a couple of videos. So the next tip I want to offer up is adding either some leg extensions or getting a landing pad when you land this thing in tall grass. As you can see, this thing sits very, very close to the ground, especially in the back. And if you're landing in tall grass, you're going to have your props hitting the grass. You're going to have a lot of stuff up in your camera and kind of blocking your gimbal. So putting it onto a landing pad, or if putting it using leg extensions, will help you keep it out of the grass so that you're not going to have those issues and it takes off and lands perfectly. I do know also that a landing pad will help it with return to home, in that it uses the camera as well as GPS to locate where it took off and landed from. So if you have a landing pad like the one that I'm showing in this video, it will actually be more accurate in terms of return to home. So something to consider. So the DJI Mavic with the battery comes in at about 1.6 pounds for all you Americans out there. I'm not sure what that is in terms of grams, but the point being that it is over the 0.55, slightly more than half a pound limit that the FAA has set, at which point you need to have a FAA tag or sticker for it. So if you do buy the Mavic, if it is your first drone and you live in the US, you need to make sure to register with the FAA. It costs $5, not a huge deal. They give you a number, and then you will add that number to your quad. I've actually got mine inside the battery compartment with a little sticker. Fits very nicely. It's right there if I ever need to show it to anybody, but it's also not out on the outside of the quad, so it looks a little nicer. So be sure you register this quad with the FAA, because it is a US federal requirement. If you're in a different country, then I recommend looking up the local laws and seeing what you need to do for the Mavic. The next thing I want to mention is the tap to focus that is part of the DJI Go app. The tap to focus is a new thing. If you're not used to it, if you've flown DJI before and didn't have to do this, it's actually an enhancement. It seems like it can be a bit of a hassle, because when you don't tap to focus, your image can be out of focus, your exposure can be wrong. Just learn to use the tap to focus regularly as you're flying this thing, and you'll get much better, clearer, sharper pictures. There's a lot of discussion about that. Sure, you can find other videos that explain it in detail, but just be aware that this thing doesn't focus automatically as it's flying with the DJI Go app. You actually need to tap on the screen as to what area you want to be in focus, and it will focus very quickly, but it's a two-way street. It doesn't just do it for you. So be sure to learn that, fly it, and you'll get much better footage using tap to focus. One thing that I always recommend is to format the SD card often. Some people I know fly with their SD cards. They'll take it out, they'll copy footage over, they'll put it back in, and it might be a big SD card that'll hold a lot of footage, which is great. Or they might delete the files using their computer when they put it into their computer. I know you can get SD card errors. You want to make sure you have a fast enough SD card. It comes with a 16 gig. I recommend a 32 or a 64, because that 16 will fill up quickly. But pretty much as a best practice, if I'm flying and I know that I've already copied the footage from my last flight, I go ahead and format my SD card every time. I find that you avoid SD card errors. I also try to use the same SD card in the quad every time, one that I know that it likes, that will read and write fast enough for 4K. And so use the same card, get a bigger card, and format that card as often as you can into the using the DJI Go app. Super easy. You just go into the camera, you go over to the little settings area, and then you scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's a button that says format, and it'll format the card for you. So I did a video about flying indoors, and I just want to mention that if you are going to fly this thing indoors, one important thing to do is to go into the DJI Go app and change one setting, and that's your return to home setting. By default, this thing, when it loses signal with your remote, will want to go to a certain height and then return to home, which is great if you're outdoors and there's nothing above it. But if you're inside, I guarantee you that height's going to be higher than the ceiling of the building you're in, unless you're in a really, really tall atrium. But most people are going to be flying this in smaller spaces. So what you can do is you can go into the app, you can change the setting from go to that height to just hover, meaning that if for some reason your remote dies or you lose signal, it'll just hover in place and you can deal with it somehow after that. It's much better than having it try to go to a certain height and crash into the ceiling. There's no sensors on the top of this, so crashing into the ceiling is a very, very real possibility with this particular quad unless you make that change indoors. So I know this one's a little controversial. I've posted about this before, and that is hand catching your drone. If you're flying in a very rugged space or you're flying on a boat, like a water ski boat, filming water skiers, that's great. But there's really no place great to land on a boat because the boat's rocking and it's a lot more difficult, no flat surfaces. With my Phantom, I often hand catch the quad because the landing gear's big. I can stay away from it. I have done it many times. It's a practice that I feel like if you do it safely, it can be done without harming anyone, especially if the thing's in GPS mode. With the Mavic, there really isn't any great place to grab this thing. I've seen a few people hand catch it by just landing it flat on their hand like this, which I suppose could be done, but I really don't recommend it. I feel like if you're going to fly the Mavic, or if you're going to fly in a situation where there isn't a great place to land, I would use a different quad, quite honestly. I'd use a Phantom or something else that can be hand caught, or come up with an alternative plan to how you might land it. For example, if you're flying on a boat, maybe there's a dock nearby that you can land it on and then go get it off the dock. Or maybe there's a flat enough space on the boat and the boat's not rocking and you can do it there. But generally, I don't recommend trying to hand catch this thing. It's very low profile, and if you did, there's a good chance you're going to end up cutting your hands. And my last tip with the DJI Mavic Pro is keep it with you and fly it often. I can't tell you how many times I have had this in the back of my car and there's been a situation where it's safe to fly and it would be great to fly. So I take it out, I get a cool shot, I show it to some kids who are impressed by it, I fly it around for a different vantage point, whatever. It's such a portable, small quad. It's so easy to fly. It's very stable in wind. It's just an amazing performer. So I recommend keeping your battery charged, keeping it in your car, and trying to fly it as often as you can, as long as it's a safe space. Don't fly it somewhere you shouldn't be flying it, or if there's going to be a lot of interference or wind. But generally, it's a great thing to fly just about anywhere you are, as long as you're not near an airport. So keep the Mavic in the car with you, ready to go with the battery charged. If it's a safe place to fly, you'll find that you'll use it a lot more if it's handy. They always say, what's the best camera? The one you have with you. What's the best drone? The one you have with you. I really appreciate you watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you really like the video, please subscribe, and I promise to create more great content on Ready, Set, Drone. We'll see you next time, and thanks again for watching.